Hi, I'm Brandi Sidoryk of Sidney York, and you're listening to the Capsule podcast on liveinlimbo.com.
This is Capsule on liveinlimbo.com. My name is Sean Chin.
And I am Andreas Babialakis. This is an audio experience where we take you on an adventure into music, film, and pop culture.
Sidney York is a Canadian pop duo ready to explode as they release their newest album, Hearts Volume 1. They are definitely of the fun and quirky variety, as their album title is stylized by a less than sign and the number 3.
Today we are joined by Brandi Sidoryk. How's it going?
It's good, thank you.
Everything's good. I pronounced your name right?
Pretty close. Sidoryk is how you pronounce it. But
Sidoryk.
There we go.
No one ever gets it right. So.
Well, they will be. You still have a lot of time to progress your music, get out there, and by the end of the year, I think everybody's going to be nailing it on the head.
There we go. That sounds good.
And your partner in crime cannot be here today?
She can't, unfortunately. She has thrown to the sickness that you sometimes get on tour, and so the poor thing is sleeping in bed, getting ready for our first show in Cleveland tonight.
That's unfortunate. Let her know we say hello and send our best regards.
Absolutely, I will.
So I'm glad that you're here at least, because my icebreaker question is for you. So while researching you guys, I found out that you, Brandi in particular, love hot dogs. and you guys in 2012 went all the way to Vancouver to try the Japadog experience. It's the world's most expensive hot dog at $100, I think.
Yeah.
Since that time, has anything ever topped that or come close to topping that hot dog?
Well, I've got to be honest, we did love the $100 hot dog, and we were lucky enough to be able to eat that because of a fan who really wanted us to have it and sent us there to have the Japadog $100 hot dog experience. But to be honest, there's two other hot dogs that really top my list as favorites.
Oh, let's hear this, yeah.
Yes, this is important. Number one is also in Vancouver at Japadog. It's called the Hiroshi dog. It's awesome, and I don't know if you know Japadog at all, but they have stands all over Vancouver. So that's one of my favorites. And the other one is it's a kimchi dog, and it is in New York at a place called Please Don't Tell, and it's actually a secret hot dog lounge.
Not anymore.
Wow, not anymore.
It's very mysterious. Yes, I've cracked the mystery of them right here on this podcast. But you access it by going through an old style telephone booth in another hot dog stand. So you go into the hot dog restaurant, go into this telephone booth, pick up the phone, and then the back of the telephone booth opens, and you go into this secret hot dog lounge.
Wow, like my mind is blown. Like,
it's crazy, right?
We usually do the mind blowing to the guest, and you just like killed them right there. Wow. So what about these hot dogs make them so special? Like,
well, you know what? I'm a girl that's pretty easy to please. So they're pretty simple. Like there's not a lot to them, but like the kimchi dog is really just like a hot dog with some pretty awesome kimchi on it. And I think that's like maybe half of it's the experience. I'm not sure, but I do love just a simple hot dog.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
It could be the experience because, I mean, the most interesting experience I've had was maybe they gave me the wrong hot dog. That's about it. You have all these like these stories where you go on like these Indiana Jones adventures through like into the deep earth, and like just you have to spend the world's fortunes on hot dogs. Like you have so much more to tell than just going up to a stand and picking up something, right?
It's true. There's nothing I won't do. No Indiana Jones adventure I won't try to get the best hot dog I can.
Oh, for sure. I think that's kind of the novelty behind it, because street meat's supposed to be kind of the easiest thing to get, but these things are so out of the way that it adds to it, right?
Absolutely.
Now, to get back to your other profession, your music profession.
As opposed to my hot dog eating profession.
Yeah, you're being a hot
Exactly.
dog connoisseur that informs the world of the greatest, like Gordon Ramsay kind of style, world touring.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because you guys are still new, if you were to give us like a introduction, like a formal introduction, basically to put yourself out there, what are you two all about, and what are some of your goals you'd like to convey with your music?
Well, I think the easiest way to describe Sidney York is we're two classical music nerds who grew up that way, who grew up in that tradition, that kind of wanted to break out, that wanted to do something different, and wanted to, sing the songs that we wanted to sing, not just the songs that, not just how Mozart wanted us to sing these songs, or Bach or Brahms, and we loved the classical music conventions, but we wanted something that was a little more our own. And so the indie pop world really held all of those things for us. And so when we joined that, we can't help but bring a little bit of that music nerd that was behind us with us along for the ride. I mean, we do music with all of the the indie pop conventions, but
Right.
we add a little bit from our past in there, which is why, I mean, you can tell we use the bassoon and the French horn in our songs, but sometimes you don't even know that they're there because we've affected them and we've made them sound like synths, or we've like distorted guitars. I mean, a lot of the things that people think are guitar solos on this record is actually the bassoon.
That's pretty cool. That's like a reverse Tom Morello, where it's like, is that a DJ scratching? No, that's his guitar, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting. Actually, I have a guitar friend who studied in university. He studied classically, and what he would always tell me was that once you learn classical conventions, he felt personally that he was extremely limited because all he could think were nodes and scales and just all of these tropes and just technical standards that classical music had, and he felt like his thinking process for creating music was limited because that's all he could think about. You said that you were able to incorporate it into modern music pretty effectively, right? So,
Yeah.
do you
Well,
ever find yourself stumbling into that kind of dark corner where it's like, I don't know where else to go except for these patterns that I've learned, or?
Well, I think with the way that Krista and I write, it's maybe not limited, but it is definitely different than a lot of other indie artists that we encounter. A lot of, like, we do write a bit from, like, that academic classical perspective. We like to notate things, like that's something that we like to do. But I think, and like I think we think in terms of form in the classical sense a lot of the times. But both of us, even when we were doing our degrees, listened to a lot of pop music when we were doing our classical music degrees. So we've really grown up with both traditions. We loved listening to pop and indie music, and even alongside the classical music stuff. And so when we came to write pop songs, they both influenced us. And I don't think the classical music limits. It just gives us a few different tools, and we also approach it from a different way. And we have noticed a lot of our musicians that we take out on the road with us will make fun of us because some of our charts they look like a classical musician wrote them, but
Right.
we're just thorough.
Well, it's good to be thorough. It's good to have everything placed in a very specific way. I'm a bit of a perfectionist myself. That's what I would prefer.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think even live it affects us, not even just how we write songs, but live it affects us because with classical music we're so used to standing still on stage, and now that we play pop music, we're so excited that we don't have to stand still on stage, and we don't have these conventions that we're kind of all over the place.
So you do more moving around than
Absolutely.
usually. Yeah.
It's high energy, and it's because, we're it's like we were let out of class for like, you know, the last day of school before
That's
summer,
exactly it.
and we've gone wild almost. So
That's exactly it, because academia is over and now you can have summer break. That's I like that analogy.
yeah, for sure.
So, Brandi, I love on Hearts Volume 1, the track Hearts. Well, yeah. But inside of it, there's a transition right after the middle where you get this cool rock sound to it, right after the middle of it. Can we expect that in the rest of the full-length album? And why did you decide to release this in parts? This is Volume 1, and I'm sure you'll have other ones.
Yeah, well, we decided to release it in parts because we wanted to do something different. I mean, the listener nowadays wants to experience something different and needs to experience something different. We don't listen. I mean, we don't listen with the usual conventions anymore. I mean, there are still obviously listeners who love to sit down with a vinyl and listen to an album the whole way through. But a lot of people are singles listeners, and a lot of people download online, and they're looking for an alternative to the CD.
Right.
Whether they go vinyl or whether they go digital, it's an alternative to the compact disc, and we wanted to provide that for them in a couple of ways and in a different format. So the volumes worked really well because with the way we wanted to release our album, which was by a subscription.
Yeah, I love that concept. That's a really awesome thing to do right now with social media and all of that. That's
Yeah,
perfect.
and I mean, then people get the choice. People can get a digital subscription, and then we send it to their email inbox every 2 months, or they can get a physical subscription, and we send the vinyl to their house every
really
2
cool.
months. Yeah, so it's a great way to it's a different way to experience it. And, really it stemmed down to us wanting to do the subscription because Krista bought me a Maclean's magazine subscription for my birthday.
Nice.
And I love Maclean's magazine. But we wanted to be the Maclean's magazine of indie music. We wanted to come to people's doors, on a regular basis and have people be excited, when they're like, oh, I got something in the mail other than my terrible hydro bill.
Exactly. No, that's nice. It's kind of like the AVOD of music almost.
Yeah.
So
That's very fresh. Very fresh.
you have to send people door to door though instead. You're like, here, try this album. See if you want to keep it, kind of thing.
Yeah, our salesmen are out there as we speak.
Exactly. The Sidney York crew. No.
Yeah, but and that rock out in Hearts is definitely a hint. I mean, the volumes were crafted in a specific way, and that rock out in Hearts is definitely a hint to some of the songs that are to come.
Nice. So that's a good indication.
Absolutely.
Now, because you've studied classical and you studied modern pop, or probably like stuff from like the 60s and the 50s as well, right?
Yeah, you know what? It's funny. I think that for me, I kind of skipped out on that generation of music listening. I mean, I obviously know like the biggies from that era nowadays, but to be honest, and this is my big secret, don't tell anybody else, but
Nobody will know.
Nobody will know. I grew up in Rocky Mountain House, Alberta.
Yeah.
I listened when I was little. All I knew was country music. That's all I knew. Like, that's everything I listened to up until I was probably 16 years old. And then I started listening to opera because no one else in Rocky Mountain House did. And I, wanted to be different than everybody else. And so I kind of defiantly started listening to opera. So, I mean, my introduction to the pop world was fairly late. It was probably around that same time. So
that's really interesting.
Who's your favorite country artist at that time prior to that?
At that time, I would have to say my favorite country artist would have been Brad Paisley.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent guitar
He's
player.
pretty cool, yeah.
Yeah, he's
still rocking it.
he is. He is still rocking it. Those country artists, they record like album after album and have devoted fans every time. It's really it's an interesting genre.
It is. It's a very heartfelt one because all of it's like the working class kind of everyday person, as opposed to kind of like the higher socialite standards that maybe modern hip hop or pop would set, right?
Absolutely. Like, I mean, modern pop music, at least in the indie pop realm, has it actually is kind of similar to classical music in that it really is art music a lot of the time.
Oh yeah.
And so it's weird that those genres, kind of have some similarities to them, as opposed to what we see of the country music genre, which is very, you're right, very working class, very loyal fans. Just it's
Oh yeah.
it's just like music that's just for good times.
And it's very down to earth too. You know exactly what you're getting when like there aren't too many metaphors with country music. It's I got home late from work. That's exactly what happened to him. So
Yeah, that's it. Nothing
that's
else.
it.
Well,
Now
and
having
for us,
sorry.
we love to use metaphor in Sidney York. So I
Oh
guess
yeah.
I don't know how my lyrics got that way, but after listening to all that country music, but maybe it was because I wanted to hear something different than just this is what happened.
Well, maybe it's all that classical training because you've had to interpret this whole time. We're like, okay, make this your own kind of piece, right? So the whole time you've been interpreting whether you've been doing it lyrically or not, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And Krista and I are both very analytical in the way we write our music, and it is probably because of our classical music background.
For sure. Now, well, the reason why I asked if you knew a lot about like pop history or whatnot is because especially now with the way the radio was working, as you were saying before, it's very hard to get to people now, and you have to do it. You've come up with a pretty interesting way, actually. I don't know if I've heard that before, where it's like the subscription, where something's going to happen at a set time. And do you think that modern music, apart from maybe some genres like indie, for instance, or like okay, radio music. Do you think radio music has suffered a lot because a lot of the listeners are becoming too casual now? Like they're basically they're allowing for whatever they're giving them, as opposed to diving deeper. Do you think that that's kind of a setback with modern music, or do you think with people trying innovative routes, say Sidney York are trying for like, and maybe Radiohead releasing an album for whatever you want to pay them? Do you think that that's where like you have to use those kinds of means to get people to listen to what they're not just being given?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that radio still has influence, but I think its influence has changed. And because of all of the conventions that artists are using now. I mean, having a radio hit isn't the only way to get your music out there. And sometimes that's even not the best way, even if you do have a radio hit. I mean, radio still has its influence and its place, but I think listeners are wanting and asking for things to be done differently. The fact that YouTube is like a huge music discovery tool, especially for teenagers now, that's an indicator. That's an indicator to where we're moving as an industry and as an art form, and where we need to go to reach people. And I think that YouTube is a way to do it, and other means, like other online means, online radio is huge. Things like Songza. I don't know a person nowadays that doesn't seem to turn on Songza at some point. It's insane. It's nice. It's listener driven music, which is so exciting, and it means that artists can find, as long as artists can find their listeners, by one of these many means we have available, you're going to have an audience.
For sure.
I love how you guys are embracing like the whole social media thing.
Right.
That's I think that's really spot on. That's what you guys need to do. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's also fun. It's nice to be able to hear from the people that listen to our music and that like it and that want to go to shows or come to shows. It's nice for us as artists to know that. I mean, because it's an exchange. It's like what we do is a two-way experience. We're giving to people, and we want to hear from them. We want to hear what they feel that they've received.
So after listening to a few of your songs, I hear a lot of bands like Astra, You Say Party, We Say Die, and Lights.
Yeah.
All of these Canadian groups are fronted by women. Outside of Canada, do you think that there's a strong presence of a female role model for younger girls right now? And if so, who are some of them?
Outside of Canada, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that there are a lot of really strong female front women. The band Alpine from Australia is a great example, and they're doing very well nowadays. I mean, Lorde from New Zealand is doing fantastically. Sure. Like she's everywhere. I mean, Karen O from the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, of course. Yeah. I mean, there's so many. There's so many, I think, really strong female front women, and it's great. I mean, I don't think that it was always that way. And I remember somebody in that is involved with commercial radio telling me, and this was only 3 years ago, that a lot of radio DJs will never play two female-fronted bands back-to-back on the radio because it's just not what was done before. And it's kind of one of those old things that old habits die hard. So a lot of, like, to hear that from somebody in commercial radio is crazy because it doesn't seem to make any sense.
No, it doesn't seem real.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, we're living in, the year 2014 at the time, it was 2011, and you think this is something that this is something people think about in radio. But I mean, I think that even in this amount of time, I think that has changed. I don't think that people see female-fronted bands as being, a novelty at all, or something that's not out of the norm. They're not
anymore considered female-fronted bands. They're just considered bands.
Absolutely.
I'm liking that transition. Now, you say that there's a huge outburst of female artists and whatnot, which is good, especially for pushing how neutral it is to just have a singer as opposed to this is this singer, this is that singer, right? Yeah. What do you think of an artist or artists that are theatric like Rihanna or Lady Gaga or Katy Perry that are really dominating the radio waves, that have these huge, like I said, they're very theatrical and they're pushing this female image very far? Do you think that it's kind of separating them, or do you think it's actually helping the cause?
I don't know. I don't know if I've ever thought of it in that way. And I think it's because of what we were talking about, how, there's no real distinction anymore between female-fronted bands, male-fronted bands, female artists, male artists. I think that what they do is more based on their art and how they want it perceived, and the theatrics behind it is part of what they do. I mean, you can really go so many ways on that spectrum. You can add a lot of that theatrics to your music and have it be not just the music. It's a show. It's a different experience.
Sure.
I mean, or then you go to the idea. Like, I mean, there's theatrics involved to the solo artist that sits in a coffee shop with their guitar and their microphone and tells stories. There's a certain amount of theatrics involved in that even. So, I mean,
good point.
I think we all employ it in some way. It's just the manner in which we employ it. And I don't know if any is better or worse, or stunting the advancement or helping the advancement. I think it's just everyone's different way of communicating their own art.
No, it's a very good answer. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Folk singer will have some sort of theatrics, even though it's not huge lights or anything. It's the fact that they're on stage, and because of that, you have to pay more attention and then hear what they're saying, which creates your own kind of image in your head. Like country singers, for instance, as you were going up before.
Yeah. No, absolutely. There's so, like, and I mean, there's obviously conventions in each genre. I mean, I think for the artists like Lady Gaga and Rihanna and Katy Perry, they have certain conventions, certain theatrical conventions that are appropriate for their genre.
Yep.
It's the same with country music. There's certain theatrics that are appropriate for their genre as well as the solo artist. I think it just depends on, what genre you're actually placing yourself in.
Fair enough.
Yeah, fair enough. So in a recent interview that you did with our friends over at Ambi, a music blog, you stated that you're highly anticipating the new St. Vincent album as well.
Yes.
So, we are as well. I don't know if you saw, but the Guardian's Alexis Petridis gave her a 5 out of 5. So while this is fantastic, and we haven't heard it yet, but we'll probably give it a high grade too, I'm sure of it. But do you ever worry that there is such a heavy burden on an artist, especially a relatively new one, to be given such high regard, and if they can live up to that again in the future?
Well, I guess there is a little bit of pressure. It all depends on whether you want to subscribe to that pressure or not. I think, for us, we do what we do regardless of what acclaim we receive from it. And it's hard. As an artist, you learn quickly that it's hard to please everybody. And I know, there's people who will love, and like St. Vincent's a great example. There's people who will love what St. Vincent does. She's an incredible musician. She's got such a unique, experience and artwork, and all her music is very different. And people will love. There are some people that will love that, and will praise that. There will be people who do not understand it.
Yeah.
It is not the most accessible. And so there's people who will think it's amazing. There's people who will be like, I don't even know why you would call this music. It's and those are people who like something different. So I think you learn really early that you're never going to be able to please everybody. Everyone is not going to like your new record, or they might not have liked your last record, or but there's the people out there that will. And to be honest, if there wasn't anybody who liked it, we would still be doing it anyways.
For sure. And it's interesting that you raised that opinion, because St. Vincent's kind of like Sidney York, where it's not just this pop upbringing and whatever. I believe she's related to a really, really famous jazz musician. I can't remember off the top of my head who.
Yeah, well, and I don't doubt it. Like the way stylistically that she performs and the way she writes, like it sounds definitely jazz influenced. So.
For sure, and it's kind of like your background, where you country and opera, which, as you're proving, it actually does work in the indie world. But that's not something that I would put together instantly now, with all these different genres being combined into. Well, I find indie rock, as you said, a very welcoming genre for this kind of experimentation, with a lot of indie listeners now, with sites like Pitchfork, for instance, and new radio stations. Like we just have one in Toronto now that just started in January,
right?
Specifically for indie music. Do you think that listeners will not only discover these new artists, but that they'll discover these new kind of genres as well? Like, do you think it'll expand their music taste?
Yeah, well, to be honest, I think that the reason I think that radio hasn't, in particular, all of these new avenues for indie music hasn't been influencing the listener. It's been the listener that's influencing them. There's a reason that there's now a market for indie radio stations that are exclusively indie music. There's a market for that because listeners have discovered it on their own through social media, through YouTube, and they've let people know that that's what they listen to now. And so that's I think that radio in essence is responding instead of paving the way.
As they were before, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of shoving it away, like, okay, the internet's got this, we can put up what we want. Now indie's kind of taking over the radio, which is, it's kind of nice.
Absolutely, it's great. We love it.
Yeah, we do, for sure.
We do too, yeah. What kind of influence did your parents have on you musically growing up? Like, what did you listen to from their collection?
Well, my parents were country music listeners, so I listened to a ton of country music. Krista was very different. Krista's parents are hardcore CBC listeners, and so that's what Krista grew up listening to.
That's very, very refreshing to hear that.
Absolutely.
That's Sidney York right there. It's CBC and country. That's
a new genre, CBC country.
Yes.
Country CBC.
Country CBC.
Yeah.
They should make that a new station.
There you go, and it'd just be you guys permanently, 24/7.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, we definitely had some, we definitely had differing, musical influences from our parents. But I think that that's what makes our songwriting really interesting when we collaborate, is because it is very different compared to, what we have both come from. We come to the plate with very different ideas.
So, and as that rolls along, you do live shows, and tomorrow you'll be playing at the Horseshoe Tavern, the legendary Horseshoe Tavern in Toronto.
Nice.
Yeah. And so in your live performances and your music videos, you guys are very out there, which is fantastic. But do you feel like there's a fine line when you need to be self-conscious about how you are perceived to your fans and the rest of the world?
Well, I mean, it's actually funny. I think that us being very out there is our biggest asset, and at the same time our biggest curse. People, I mean, artists like us sort of are redefining what the rock star, the new world rock star is. We're, people that are, friendly, a little more accessible. We're, Krista and I go into a venue and we ask for tea instead of, copious amounts of alcohol.
Right.
And I mean, that's not the new image of the rock star these days. I mean, there's lots of artists that are like that now. And I mean, I guess one may argue is that the mystery is gone from that. I mean, rock stars are not as mysterious, are not as, don't seem as exciting as they used to be. But I mean, I think that the way that we present ourselves to our audience is definitely more of a role model, a positive role model. In that, because of that, we do things a little bit differently.
No, we love that.
Which is good. Yeah, it's refreshing, as I was saying.
Yeah, but not everyone loves that yet. I think. I think that we sometimes get a little bit of flack for being that friendly, upbeat, happy group of people. In the artist world, I think that throws people a little bit. People are like, well, how can they be real artists? I mean, they're not moody. They smile. They want to interact with their fans. It's something that I think people don't necessarily understand, and that people have commented on that before, but it's who we are, and we're going to continue to do it because
don't change
that's
who
who
you
we
are.
are. We're not going to pretend we're somebody else. So if we happen to be the nerdiest rock stars, then so be it. That's who we are.
Well, don't forget, not everybody understood hip-hop when they came out before, and how are they musicians? They're shouting, and it's music that's being sampled that's not even there. So don't worry, that'll all blow over. Don't worry about that.
We're happy to pave the way if it means more artists can have a positive and unmoody outlook on life.
For sure. Not everybody has to be a Morrissey. There's a reason why he's got a singular name. It's because that's kind of like his trope that he's kind of gotten, and I don't think everybody has to follow suit to being that kind of cynical kind of rock star, right?
Absolutely.
Now, you're talking about rock stars and this mystery. Now, yes, I think the image of the rock star has kind of taken a downfall, especially because a lot of it's been done before. You've had the shock rockers like Alice Cooper, and then you've had these androgynous kind of I don't even know where to begin, like David Bowie, where at the time nobody knew what to make of him. And now you see like a lot of artists have been influenced by them, like for instance Marilyn Manson, Lady Gaga again, who have these legendary kind of out of this world rock star image, but we've seen it before. Do you think that the mystery instead has been replaced not by image and theatrics and even music, but instead by the fact that we've got like such a small technological world now where everybody can be connected and we have the chance like this to talk to musicians online? So do you think that mystery instead comes from us being able to interact and thus wonder what kind of a response we're going to get as opposed to the music itself?
Yeah, no, I think that you're completely right. And I think you have hit the nail on the head. I mean, we have all of these ways in which we can communicate with our fans beyond the music and beyond our live show. I mean, we can, if a fan contacts us on Twitter, we can respond. And I mean, that's something that, makes us, more accessible and more real to our fans. And the fact that they can interact with their favorite musician on that level is something that fans in a way almost expect now, because they can and because we do it.
For sure. I think that's a good answer. Now we have to wrap up quickly, but seeing as Sidney York are pretty new, and your upbringing was country and opera, and then we have CBC as well,
music.
Exactly. CCBC music. Now that you're diving into the indie world and you've got like a fresh outlook on this, are there any artists currently right now that have taken your fancy, like in the indie world or just in general?
See, ones that I would look out for. I'm gonna say a couple that are also fairly up and coming Canadian artists that I think are definitely ones to watch out for. I would say my top 3 are the Belle Game from Vancouver,
Right.
Shred Kelly from Fernie, BC, and Boreal Sons from Calgary.
I don't know Shred BC. What's Shred BC like?
Oh, Shred Kelly. They're
Shred
from
Kelly. Shred BC.
Kelly. Yes.
Where did that come from?
Yeah, Shred
Kelly. That's why I haven't known, because I was typing in the wrong thing. Sorry.
Yeah, Shred Kelly. We actually were on the Tracks on Tracks train for the Via Rail train for the Tracks on Tracks documentary with them, and they are just a fun band. And when we talk about they're very much similar to the conversation we were talking about, where they're just fun, friendly people. They're the new rock star. They're the people who are engaging and friendly and good to their fans. And I think that they're a perfect example of that, and they are just really fun music. They're definitely worth checking out.
On that positive note, we're going to wrap up the show. All of our fans and listeners can follow you on social media at www.sidneyyork.com and on Facebook at Sidney York and on Twitter at Sidney York. Thank you so much, Brandi, for joining us today.
Thanks. Bye.
You can follow myself on Twitter at Sean Chin.
And you can follow myself at Andreas Babs.
And of course, you can follow the show on Twitter at Live in Limbo and use the hashtag Capsule Podcast to join in on the conversation. And as always, you can find the show notes at liveinlimbo.com/capsule. Take care.